You think President Biden should run again?
Yes, I do.
I just met in person with Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China.
The last time we met was in 2017 during the World Economic Forum in Davos.
President Biden meets with Xi Jinping. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and a bunch of Democrats are saying our policy won us the midterm, not the complete ineptitude of the GOP candidates. There's some Ukraine news. Joe Biden backs off of a big campaign promise. Donald Trump is set to announce something tomorrow. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for tuning in. Daily Caller Live starts right now. 2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Monday, the year of our Lord, November 14th. A lot of stuff happened this weekend, busy weekend. And also, guess what? We're late because we're always late. Maybe I'll tell you why I'm always late to these to this show every single morning. But I want to get right into this. I think this is the most important thing. I don't necessarily know that it's the most exciting thing to be talking about, but it definitely is the most important thing when you want to talk about, I don't know, global politics, potential global war, nuclear disaster, all of those sorts of things. The president met with Xi Jinping today, this morning. It's in Indonesia, so it was like not today. It was a couple hours ago. And it didn't look great. Now, it wasn't the worst thing I had ever seen, just from the president and his ability to talk in front of cameras and all that sort of stuff. But remember, I want to put some of this in context because I feel like it's pretty clear and obvious. And again, I don't want this to be true. If you've been watching this show for any extended period of time, the one thing that you probably would know about me is that I tend to be pretty lenient when it comes to foreign policy in terms of presidents I don't like. In terms of domestic stuff, I disagree with Biden all the time and will call him out and say, this is dumb, 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 dumb. But on the world stage, I do not want America to look like a weak pansy pants, and that's regardless of who's in the White House. If Obama's in the White House, if Biden's in the White House, Trump's in the White House, doesn't matter. I don't want the United States to look bad on the world stage. But this was kind of interesting. So the two met in Indonesia at is it the G7? I forget which thing this actually is. Oh my gosh, I'm pulling up the notes here and I've missed a big story that maybe we'll talk about tomorrow. If you're interested in this FTX stuff, watch tomorrow. We'll go deep on that. That's really fascinating. If you have no idea what that is, we'll see you tomorrow. Check this out. So Biden met with Xi in Indonesia and said, well, he said this to the press. This is what he said openly, and we'll talk about some of the problems with this on the other side of this. Check this out, and we'll talk later. If you haven't already, I would appreciate you clicking on the little like button and the little share button. Really, really does help us out. Let us know in the comment section, what do you think about China Joe, as some people call him, meeting with Xi Jinping for the first time since 2017. Watch this clip and we'll discuss on the other side.
And let me meet, I just met in person with Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China. We had, we had an open and candid conversation about our intentions and our priorities. It was clear, he was clear and I was clear, that we'll defend American interests and values, promote universal human rights, and stand up for the international order and work in lockstep with our allies and partners. We're going to compete vigorously, but I'm not looking for conflict. I'm looking to manage this competition responsibly.
Good to see you. Okay, so that was that. I didn't hate all of that because the president said, we're going to compete with China. There's no doubt about that. And just also because that's just true. We're going to be competing with China. They're one of the biggest economies in the world. And actually, they might, I don't know how you measure the size of economies. Anyways, China, major competitor. He says, we're going to compete with them, but we're not looking for any conflict. Now, Of course, those things are obvious, but I do feel like they need to be said. Now, he also talked about universal human rights and all that sort of stuff. What I would caution the Biden administration to do, and maybe you think this is within their capability, maybe you don't, I would say pretty obviously don't trust Xi Jinping, don't trust the Chinese Communist Party, don't trust the People's Republic of China as a whole, as a country. I feel like I need to make this clear because this is a tenuous time in American political correctness. I am not talking about Chinese people. We're talking about the Communist Party of China, of which Xi Jinping is the supreme leader for life, as he has declared himself in more recent statements. So there's that. I'm hoping that goes without saying that the Biden administration is not going to trust them at all. But at the same time, Biden has talked very friendly about Xi Jinping. Oh, we traveled as long as we could go through China. We traveled 1,700 miles together and yada, 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 yada. Even though that's entirely been fact-checked and proven to be not true. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, Biden says this on the campaign stump. I'm good friends with Xi Jinping, and we've done this, 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 and this, and this. And I think like the Washington Post said, hey, yeah, there's no record of Joe Biden ever doing any of that sort of stuff. Anyways, he's been very soft on Xi Jinping. Now, here is a clip from the actual meeting. This is their public meeting. I think they went behind closed doors and talked there as well, but their big public open meeting thing, this is what Joe Biden had to say. Check this out. Not this clip, but the clip after this gets really interesting in terms of how Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party understand American politics. Watch this, and I don't know, what I was looking for here is just kind of the president's ability to come off as not a dundering old man. Check it out.
And I believe this is critical for the sake of our two countries and the international community. This was a key to the theme of the COP27 meeting, where I spoke on Friday, and we'll be discussing a lot of these challenges together, I hope, in the next couple hours. And the world expects, I believe, China and the United States to play key roles in addressing global challenges from climate changes to food insecurity, and for us to be able to work together. The United States stands ready to do just that, work with you if that's what you desire. So President Xi, I look forward to our continuing and ongoing open and honest dialogue we've always had, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so there, that whole mood of it. Look, you can say all of the words, but for some reason in the world of politics, especially in the world of geopolitical affairs, how you say things matter and the tone in which you say things. He sounded old and also very conciliatory of the president / dictator of China, Xi Jinping. I don't know, just kind of didn't rub me the right way. Now, what I thought was fascinating about this clip, and this is not good. This is objectively not good for the Biden administration, but America as a whole. What I think that citizens in the United States don't quite understand fully about a lot of major power players in the rest of the world is that they look at and understand our politics. What I mean by that is, how many of you know how Vladimir Putin gets quote unquote elected? How many people know how the Chinese Communist Party actually governs internally? What are the inner workings of the political system of the struggle for power within the People's Republic of China? What does that look like? I would venture to guess that a lot of you out there, myself included, are going to say, I don't know. I don't actually know what that looks like. But they know so much more than we know about us than we know about them. That was clunky. They look at our politics very seriously and very, very poignantly, as we don't really, the United States, I don't think the administration is looking at internal Chinese politics and trying to make any sort of play any which way. Now, one, They can't really. The Biden administration can't really make any political play in China because China censors all of the information that comes into the country. And two, really wouldn't make any difference if they did in China. On the other hand, Xi Jinping oftentimes knows what to say to get the American media, like myself and a bunch of people out there, kind of running with a different story. In a lot of ways, there is a huge effort, I think, from the Chinese Communist Party to discredit the American president, whoever it is, right? That would make sense, that is in their self-interest. And so when Xi Jinping, I'm getting to a point here, when Xi Jinping opens up his part of the conversation, listen to what he says. It is fascinating. It is planned out. It is not a good look for Joe Biden or really the American people as a whole, and will probably send some people off into a different direction on China Joe and all of the Hunter Biden dealings and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not saying that that's discounted in any way, shape, or form, but know that that's what Xi Jinping is doing when he says this right here. If you haven't already, click the little like button. Would appreciate that right down here, especially if you're watching on Facebook. And the little share button. Would really appreciate you doing that. Check it out. This is how Xi Jinping opened this conversation.
The last time we met was in 2017 during the World Economic Forum in Davos. That was already more than 5 years ago. Well, since you assumed the presidency, we have maintained communication via video conferences, phone calls, and letters.
Yeah. The opening thing that he says is, so, okay, do you guys remember about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, when Biden and Xi Jinping had their first conversation via video, like it was a Zoom call, effectively? And prior to that, Joe Biden went out and addressed the media, says, I'm not a friend of Xi Jinping. I am a detractor. No. What? I can't. I'm brain farting here. Basically, he says, I'm at odds with Xi Jinping. And Xi Jinping's first words that he used on that Zoom call was, hello, old friend. Good to see you. Same thing is happening here. Xi Jinping knows there's a huge contingent of the American population that looks at the World Economic Forum in Davos and this globalization effort as a bad thing. And I think it is. Just FYI, like, I'm on your side there. Like, I think that the World Economic Forum and globalization as a whole is a bad deal for the American people and our country as a whole. And, there is some conversation about global domination and superpowers, and we can get down that rabbit hole quite a bit, but we're not going to do that necessarily right now. All I'm saying is Xi Jinping knows that in order to divide people, he's going to say things like this. Hello, Joe Biden. The last time we met was at the World Economic Forum in Davos. You think that maybe, possibly, that was strategic in the sense of trying to get people to recognize that Joe Biden goes to the World Economic Forum and also is buddies with Xi Jinping? It's entirely intentional is what I'm getting at here. And I don't know. Doesn't make Joe Biden look good really at all. I want to get to some of the comments here. Lulu says, so freaking pathetic. Yeah, it wasn't a great look. John says, don't trust Joe. Lester says this, Biden is bought and paid for by the communist China. Yeah, and again, everything that Xi Jinping says, know that it's aimed at a political angle for discrediting and attacking the president by way of the American media, saying that he's a close friend of the president of China and goes to the World Economic Forum and hangs out in Davos, and we're really great buddies. Yeah, it is going to be really interesting. Don says, meanwhile, China keeps buying up farms and land near Air Force bases. How dumb can you get? Yeah, this is going to be, it's going to be interesting how the policy actually lines up. If we're being fair here, I understand wanting to be diplomatic about these sorts of things, because obviously we don't want to necessarily escalate to a war situation. I don't know. I feel like that goes without saying. We don't want to be at war with China. Like, duh. At the same time, I would hope that the policy is more reflective of we're going hard against China diplomatically than the kind of light talks that Joe Biden presented in his meeting. James says one world order in play. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of comments in here that we don't necessarily have time to get to because I do want to get to this. Shoot. There's two things. Do we? All right. Well, we'll touch on this first, and then there's some stuff from Democrats that were said over the weekend that I thought was fascinating. Strap in, folks. This is going to get wild. President Trump, at least to my knowledge, and if you know any better, if anything has happened in the last 15 minutes or 30 minutes on Twitter, let me know. But it is to my understanding that former President Donald Trump is still set to make a November 15th announcement, which I feel like November 15th is coming up pretty fast. Oh, that's tomorrow. The President of the United States, Donald Trump is set to announce his candidacy for the presidency of the United States of America, according to pretty much everybody. Now, there are some people that are skeptical of what that announcement is going to be, but a lot of people are saying that he's planning on doing it. We didn't talk about this last week because it happened like in the morning-ish, but President Trump was on Truth Social saying some nasty things about Ron DeSantis, which we all know about already, but also Glenn Youngkin, which I don't know. I don't know how he got pulled into the fray. But again, this is going to be interesting. If you're a freedom-minded voter and you tend to vote in the direction that has more freedom, you should be looking at this cautiously, carefully. It's going to be complicated because there's that huge contingent. I would probably say like 25 to 30% of the I don't like using terms necessarily, the Republican Party that is all on board and loyal to Donald Trump. And then there's the other side that's kind of ambivalent. And then there's another strong contingent saying he's got to get out of the way. On this show, in the comment section, we've had days that have been kind of flipped. Michael says, good, we need Trump. And then if I were to scroll through and be able to read these while talking, which I can't do very well, I'm sure I would find you that Trump needs to get out of the way and let Ron DeSantis through. The day after the midterms, I think it was like 90% of the comments in the comment section were it's time for DeSantis to take the reins, or it's time for somebody else to take the reins. And then like the next day, it like flipped and went like 70% pro-Trump. I don't know how this is going to shake out. All I know is that it's going to get wild. This is from The Hill. Former President Donald Trump is plowing ahead with his 2024 announcements as of this week. Let's see. This is from The Hill. I don't know how much of this is actually relevant. They talk about Sununu, who's the governor of New Hampshire, a Republican governor. Well, we'll speculate when it actually happens. Tomorrow, I think, if anything, the Daily Caller is probably going to be taking that announcement live on Facebook. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. There's a lot of variables here. All eyes are on that Senate race in Georgia now that's going to have a runoff, I believe, on December 6th. A lot of Republicans outwardly speaking that they don't think that Donald Trump announcing for president is going to be super helpful when trying to win that seat in Georgia. But again, we'll see. Now, if we're talking honestly and openly here, I'm not sure how good of a chance Herschel Walker has in that Senate race in Georgia. Not because I don't want control of the Senate, but because he's just a bad candidate. And he doesn't have Brian Kemp, the governor who beat Stacey Abrams, at the top of the ticket pulling him forward. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting. Strap in. We will continue to talk about that as it continues to unfold. I want to get to this because I think this is kind of an interesting component of this whole political world right now. I've been pretty clear on this, or at least clear on what I think about this. And let me know in the comment sections if you agree. I think Republicans did not have a quote-unquote red wave. Oh, by the way, it's projected like this is, you want to talk about tight House splits. Last presidential cycle, the Democrats took the House by the narrowest majority. It's going to be even more. 3 seats is what we're looking at. Republicans needed 218 to secure a majority. They're at 219, and Democrats, I believe, are at 216 right now, at least as it's projected. I think I was looking at it at that in NBC. So the House is extremely tight, and effectively Republicans have lost the Senate. So why did that happen? I think I've been pretty clear on my opinions. And again, I'd love to know in the comment section, like, why did that actually end up being the case? My condensed commentary on that is we pick bad candidates. John Fetterman in Pennsylvania was a terrible candidate. So it must have taken an even worse candidate to lose to him in Pennsylvania. I think in the Senate race, given how close Fetterman or the close the race was with Dr. Oz and Fetterman, had they nominated, like, I don't know, some county district trash supervisor or something as the Republican, they would have walked into the Senate. Same thing happened in Georgia. If they had nominated, I don't know who the Secretary of State of Georgia, I don't know if they're a Republican, but if they are, they would have handily beat Raphael Warnock. But Republicans nominated not the best candidates, especially in those 2 seats, and lost the Senate. But so that's it. That's what I think. I'm curious to let you know in the comment section. I would like to, let's see. I'll start reading some of these in the comment section to kind of see where people are at. But speaking of that, Democrats have a different analysis of why they did better than expected in the midterms. I want you to listen to this from Chuck Schumer, and also there's a Nancy Pelosi clip after this. And my question here is, do they actually buy this? I don't know. Listen to this and let me know if you think in the comment section that Chuck Schumer believes what he's saying or if he's just lying about it. Check this out.
There are 3 things that help the Senate secure the majority. 1, our terrific candidates. 2, our agenda and our accomplishments. And 3, the American people rejected the anti-democratic, extremist MAGA Republicans.
Okay, so basically, to bottom line this, Chuck Schumer is saying, well, we did better than expected and there was no red wave because of the policy and accomplishments we've had. I just don't think that's true. I think it was because of poor candidate selection, and I think the GOP is kind of in scatters. Mitch McConnell spent a ton of money in Alaska to beat another Republican rather than sending money to Arizona or Nevada or any of those other Senate seats that we lost. But there's a lot of different reasons. I think Democrats having better policy is like 10, 11, 12 on the priority list when it comes to why there was no quote unquote big red wave. So the answer to the question is, does he actually believe that? If he actually believes that, there's a part of me that thinks that's a good thing. There's a part of me that thinks if Democrats believe that their policies are better and it's not just a power play, I would say run on it again. I would say run on the same policy issues again, and also hopefully Republicans will have learned a lesson as to not nominate bad candidates. If that's the case, then I would say, generally speaking, the next election would go very, very red wavy. You want to talk about an actual red wave, a red tsunami, if Democrats actually think they can run on policy and win, and Republicans have learned their lesson and stopped nominating bad candidates, you will actually see a red tsunami, at least I think. So I don't know. Does he actually believe it? Or is he just trying to play to the base, knowing that there's no election coming for a long time? Let's see. Eckham says that Oz is still a better candidate than Fetterman. I probably would have voted for Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, but that's just apparently a bunch of people in Pennsylvania, which, is pretty shaded blue. A bunch of people in Pennsylvania did not think so. Andrew says universal mail-in ballots. That is a problem. I don't necessarily, well, I don't know. That's a huge problem, and I'm not going to say that that wasn't the key issue. I just think that there are bigger variables out there. And also, the problem with the stupid mail ballot thing is we'll never actually know how detrimental those are. But it is kind of interesting too, right? There's a ton of doubt among elections, which justifiably so. I've expressed why I have a ton of doubt in the election system and expressed that that's the only thing I genuinely care about. Not the only thing I genuinely care about. But in terms of like priority number one, it's believing the freaking elections. Because at the end of the day, it matters. It matters who wins. It matters who wins a lot. But if nobody believes who actually won, we don't have a country anymore. We can have a country that goes left and goes right and goes down the center, it goes all these different directions politically. But if nobody believes the elections, we're screwed. We no longer have a functioning country. And that's, I think, the biggest problem that I think we have to face from a bipartisanship angle. What is the line between full trust in the security of the election and access? Because, you know, that's what Democrats want. They just want more access, which is fine. I get it. But there has to be a line to where everybody believes it and as much access can be granted as possible in the confines of everybody believing that the election is secure. Mike said, it's because of bad GOP candidates. I agree with you, Mike. I think I've made that pretty clear. That's where I'm at. Oh, this is interesting. We're not going to talk a ton about this. I think Fetterman. Sharon says, I think Fetterman won because people were sympathetic to him. I agree. I think there is an argument to be made that Fetterman's stroke, while unfortunate to his health and his family, and I feel sorry for him in that regard, but I think that took a lot of eyes away from how bad of a person he is. We won't get into all of the reasons why he is, but the dude has never had a job or anything like that. And then watch this. I'm curious if Nancy Pelosi actually believes this as well. Check this out. There's a lot of people correcting Sharon in the comments here, using the wrong form of one, but hey, appreciate the comment, Sharon. Watch this from Nancy Pelosi with George Stephanopoulos. Check it out.
You think President Biden should run again?
Yes, I do. I mean, President Biden has been a great president for our country. He has accomplished so much.
Yikes. Oh, did I cut that off too soon? I think I did. Nancy Pelosi says, yes, I do think President Biden should run again. This is a longer conversation. Maybe we'll do a podcast on this, but my cousin and I, who did the election night broadcast with me, we're talking about just in terms of like trying to look optimistically at the big not red tsunami. Where does this put Democrats? I think in a lot of ways, this might put Democrats in a worse off position because they don't have the House or the Senate. They're going to be struggling to get really any of the crazy woke stuff through, which I think is a good thing. I'm all about blocking whatever the radical Democrats want. I think that's a solid thing. But at the same time, in terms of like the bad news, there were going to be a lot of people on the inside of the DNC in Washington that were trying to use the quote-unquote red tsunami that was supposedly ensuing to push Joe Biden out of the picture and say, look, you gotta go. This is not working. But since they didn't do as bad as everybody thought, Joe Biden is now emboldened, saying, I'm gonna run in 2024 and looking at this optimistically, which that's a problem. And at the same time, there's no clear successor in the DNC that would replace him. And that's going to be a big infighting thing in and of itself. And especially if he doesn't want to go, there's a lot of problems in the Democratic Party at the moment. Now, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, the Republicans have a similar problem between Trump, DeSantis, the quote unquote establishment. But this is going to be wild. Neither side is set up very well. And gonna be interesting. Before we go, I want to I didn't even get to that. All right. I want to briefly update you on Ukraine. If you haven't, we don't really talk about the Ukraine stuff all that much here, but Ukraine has officially taken back Kherson, which is one of the key pivotal areas that Russia had taken, and then they took it back. Russians retreated over the weekend, and President Zelensky marched into Kherson on Monday. This is said to be the biggest prize his troops have won so far, vowing to press on until Kyiv reclaims control of all occupied territories. Now, that's going to get interesting too. And again, we haven't been following this story a ton because I think there's way better commentators out there than me on this. But what he means by that remains unclear. Vowing to press forward until Kyiv reclaims control of all of its occupied territory. Are they including Crimea? If you're lost on this, Russia took a peninsula that belonged to Ukraine in 2012, 2011-ish, and has been holding on to it. Zelensky has said, all of the stuff that you've taken from us, we're going to take back. That has been evidenced by Kherson. He says they're not stopping. Are they also talking about Crimea, or is that going to be kind of the, all right, we've got everything we wanted back, and since nobody did anything about Crimea in 2012, fine. I don't know. And I think Russia would have a huge problem with them taking back Crimea. But anyways, different conversation for a different time, but that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on as it moves forward. We will talk about the abortion stuff tomorrow, as well as the FTX stuff. The FTX stuff is fascinating. FTX is a cryptocurrency thing, and it is looking like the dude heading it up was running a massive Ponzi scheme, like Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme type stuff. And he got screwed over the weekend. And the reason why I think you all might find that interesting is that second to George Soros, this guy was the biggest donor to Democrats and their causes in the midterms. A lot of interesting stuff there. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Also, President Biden walking back one of his biggest campaign promises. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. There's just so much to get to all the time. Oh, we didn't even talk about the Kerry emissions thing. John Kerry talking about emissions, and President Biden was it Egypt? Forget where he was late last week, making some comments that were not awesome. There's too much stuff to get to, too much to talk about, so little time. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. If you're on, well, check this out. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB. You'll pretty much be able to find me anywhere. I will be tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, hosting Isabel Brown's Getter stream. Go on the Getter platform if you have Getter. We're live for like 2 hours there. Isabel does a 2-hour thing, and she's in Israel and was kind enough to ask me to host for her this evening. So I'll be on there talking about a bunch of stuff, engaging in all of the news of the day. So if you have Getter, go follow me on there, and then also you'll see me on Isabel's thing tonight. Any other announcements? Oh, boom, Kentucky. We're going to be in Kentucky on Wednesday and Thursday. Moorhead, Kentucky on Wednesday. Bowling Green on Thursday. Doing some comedy shows. I don't really even know what to call it. I'm making an appearance. It's kind of like a mix between like stand-up comedy and politics. And like, I don't know. I don't know how to juggle them entirely necessarily. But those events powered by Turning Point USA at Moorhead State University and Western Kentucky University in Bowling Green. Wednesday, Thursday. If you live in any of those areas, would love to see you. There are still tickets available. It is entirely free. And if you live in another part of the country and are watching from there, hopefully we'll come to you soon as well. That's going to do it for us today. I appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.